Hey Jenny, okay, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and the feelings involved, another important day, the death and lesson learned, and we'll get hints of time throughout. So all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are coming through, and your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can based off of what comes through here in your current life. And I'll try to help however I can. Just keep in mind, as far as connections go, you can make direct connections and opposite connections, okay? So direct connections would be directly what comes through versus the opposite connections. It's your soul wanting to experience something different or opposite from what's coming through, if that makes sense. So I'm sure there'll be something I can point out as we go. So let's start here. We have the Americas card. So this is where we're going. This is North America, Central, South America kind of thing. So even as I was shuffling, this felt very much like we're going north. So this is going to be North America, the United States. And it really feels like we're looking at the beginning of the 20th century. So it's going to be the early 20th century. I can't give you a specific date, but I do want to say it's going to be probably like no later than, I want to say 1940, something like that. Even 1950, but I want to say it's no later than like the 1940s kind of thing, no later than that. So what's coming through is we're looking at a male aspect, and immediately what I can tell you is, I don't get a lot of details of looks all the time, but what's coming through here, we're looking at a male, that is, I guess you would say like average build, but how do I put this? I guess you would say like maybe around 6 feet kind of thing, like a very average, like between 5'9" and 6 feet kind of deal, like just there. White guy, very like white bread looking, if that makes sense, like just like a typical guy. So the thing is they put this guy, or he's putting himself, or he's showing himself, or whatever it is, they're showing me in a beige jacket, like those beige like Burberry coats kind of thing is what it looks like, with a hat. And so there's this aspect that comes through that's very like covered up. Now bear with me, this is a first coming through. It's very interesting, never had this before. So very covered up, I was saying, but also as I was laying this out, it felt very much like we're looking at someone who is into exposure. So almost like, what do you call them when like flasher like kind of thing, like exposure due to a psychological something, like a psychological event that, obviously, like, everyone has things they do for certain reasons. A lot of things stem from childhood, and that's what it feels like we're looking at. Is there's something about, I feel like maybe his mother was an alcoholic. It feels very much like an absent father. It feels like an ill-equipped mother. So it feels like the childhood, there's a lot of neglect, abandonment, lack of attention, lack of interest, basically like almost lack of love kind of thing. And so it feels like in order to cope with that, we're looking at him as an adult. They're kind of popping me in to start with as an adult, where he's coping with that, with this like a flasher thing. I know there's a word for it and I can't think of it, but that, that psychological thing where you have to expose yourself, like your body kind of thing. So it feels very much like when we first started, like they were putting me in where he hung out, which felt like kind of like alleyway things where he just happens to like pop out from them and do his business and go away, pop out, do his business, go, that kind of thing. So I know this is kind of like odd I've never had this come out before, but it's just bear with me, this is what's coming through. So how you can connect with this though would be that whole aspect of exposure and covering up. So the direct connection here would be in your current life. Are you someone that emotionally vomits, has to get out what you feel? Maybe even the kind of person that it's very hard to keep secrets. You just want to just like get it all out. Like you need to be heard. You need to express yourself. that kind of thing. On the other hand, we're looking at someone where you might be like this, where it's like you have walls up and you close yourself off and you cover yourself up. You don't let people in. You don't let people know how you're feeling. You have trouble expressing yourself. So that's something you have to work on. If that's the case, this would be a message for you to focus on your self-expression and kind of like honing it, you know, like making sure that you are expressing yourself to the people that matter most to you, that you are allowing the people that you love in more. If at all, like just let them in. Something about being able to rely on people, to trust people with your love and to love you back for who you are. Giving people a second chance. That's what this feels like this little theme is coming up for, just to make sure you're doing that. And if you are, great. And if not, that's fine. That's just what's coming through. Now, another thing you can connect with is it feels like we're putting him in a city. It feels very much like, honestly, it feels like, I've never been there, but it's like Minneapolis or Detroit. And I really don't, I'm not good with geography, easy for me to say. But it's giving me like I don't know, is Minneapolis near Detroit? Are the states near? I don't know. Look those up. If you've ever been pulled towards one or the other of those states or those areas, or an urban city, it's like a very urban city. Midwestern. It feels Midwestern. So if you've ever been pulled towards the Midwest, pulled towards the Midwest, but also we're looking at the Midwest, then we're also looking at an urban atmosphere. So one, Midwest. Are you pulled towards the Midwest? Has it intrigued you? Do you live there now? Is it somewhere you want to travel to and see and visit and go on vacation to? Or opposite, you want to avoid the Midwest. You're not fond of it. It doesn't call to you at all. Ugh, Midwest, you know what I mean? And then we have the urban environment, the urban atmosphere. Are you a city person? Do you like the aesthetic of the cityscape? So this could be as simple and random as seeing photos of the city skyline or the cityscape or you know, the picture coming to my mind, they're throwing in that artist rendering of, it's like a cafe or diner. It's a famous painting. If you go look at it, it's where it's just a painting of a outside of a diner, and it's glass windows, and there's a corner. It's like the corner of the diner, and then someone's like sitting on a chair, like a booth at the counter inside. You like see their back, and it's kind of like, feels like it's like a 1980s kind of vibe or whatever it is. Look up that painting and see if it calls to you. I know you'll find it. It's famous. You'll know right away by the description. And anyway, so that kind of aesthetic, does it call to you? Is it something that seems like comfortable or familiar? On the other hand, you might have come back into this life to be with nature, to love to be away from the city, more of a suburb kind of person, or just away from the hustle bustle kind of thing, because this life feels very hustle bustle. So a lot of times when we get hustle bustle lives, so to speak, I like that term, I think I'm going to use it from now on, hustle bustle lives. So when we get those kinds of lives here, a lot of times we see our souls coming back to want to experience something a little bit more low key and a little bit slower paced or gentler. Just, you know, for the difference of experience. So keep that in mind. This can literally pertain, as far as like the aesthetic of the urban whatever environment, it can pertain just simply to like what you might enjoy as, oh, do you hear that plane? Jeez, that is loud. Anyway, sorry, squirrel mind. So it might pertain to simply like looking at like art. Like literally, like you could just like, oh, I like urban style art, or, you know, like that artist Banksy, like that kind of thing where it's like on the urban, like brick walls and stuff. If that's your gig, this would be a connection kind of thing. So anything that has to do with the urban aesthetic. Okay, so let's go to what you did with the majority of your time, which besides this quirk, I guess we could say. Oh, wait, we need to make another connection about the childhood. Okay, so remember, neglect, abandonment, well, not abandonment, yeah, abandonment or neglect. See, it's almost like the dad's either dead or left, so I don't know which one, but there is the idea of abandonment in either case. Then the neglect, the lack of love, the lack of maternal affection, the lack of affection in general as a child. So it could be, obviously, the direct connection right there. Have you, are you continuing that journey of basically being born into a family where you felt neglected, or you felt like you couldn't be yourself, or you felt like you weren't heard properly? And the reason why it would continue would be so that you can cope with it in healthier ways in this lifetime versus what we're seeing here, which is a kind of unhealthy. So that's why you would have picked to continue on with that route. On the other hand, you could have come back into a very loving, warm, attentive family, sometimes over the top protective, over the top controlling. So if you find that you were born into a controlling family, where your parents are kind of controlling, or you decided to be the younger sibling of a few, where you're basically at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of the food chain there, that would make perfect sense too, just because this person aspect of you did not experience that. Okay, so keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can based on what I've said that I haven't touched on yet. Now, what you do with the majority of your time. So this is fun. So this is the hunter and provider card, and we get this a lot of times when it's more like ancient kind of stuff, or like out in the woods, like a tribal or a more indigenous thing where it's like, oh, they're hunting and they're getting food and stuff. But I feel like we're getting this card so that we focus on this issue throughout, because it's really not about what you did for a career. It's more about how you spent your energy and what you focused on and what you brought your attention to, which was this hobby. So the hunt and provider card, we're focusing more on, it's kind of like a dual thing. It's like you are hunting to provide yourself with the emotional, emotional stuff that you want to fill yourself with that you don't have. So that love that you never got, you are looking for it. That's what this is all about. So this also pertains to the flasher aspect that we're looking at here. Now, I do want to go into what we're looking at is the flasher aspect, right? So what does this mean? Exposing your body. So this can bring up a whole theme having to do with your body image. How do you feel about your body? Are you secure in it? Do you love it? Do you enjoy sex? Are you comfortable in your skin? Do you want to be seen? Do you see the beauty of your own figure? That kind of thing. Or on the other hand, we're looking at someone, are you ashamed? Do you experience shame of your body? Do you have, what's it called with body, is it dysmorphia? Is that the word, body dysmorphia? Where basically you just, whatever you do and you look in the mirror, you just cannot see your own beauty. You see imperfection over imperfection over So is body image something that you struggle with in this life, or is it a theme that comes up? If this is the case, it would be a message for you to start focusing on processing that. Basically, what I feel is coming through is to make sure that you are giving yourself daily affirmations, that you are forcing yourself to look in the mirror and find something that you would normally find to be a flaw, and see it for the beautiful mark of nature that it is, because you are perfect, because you were born this way. You wouldn't have what you have if you weren't meant to have it. And if you're meant to have it, it means it's supposed to be there. It means it's perfectly perfect. You see? So I know it's easier said than done, but it's time to start seeing any flaws or imperfections you find in yourself as natural, normal, meant to be parts of who you are, and to incorporate that into what you love about yourself, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can as far as this goes. Now, also the hunt card means you're on the look for something. You're looking for something, meaning you feel like you're incomplete about something, right? So is there a part of your life right now where you feel like it's not complete? You're reaching, you're going for it, you're striving for something. You want to feel fulfillment, feel like you're living your purpose, and you're not. If that's the case, this is just simply saying, it's a message and it's wonderful. It's saying, if you focus on loving yourself and going inside and doing what we were talking about, going within, processing, and working on these issues we're talking about, you're going to start seeing a lot of things smooth out. You're going to start seeing your thought processes become I guess, clearer. Like, you're going to get greater clarity. You're going to feel like you're moving more smoothly along as long as you are approaching issues that you know you need to start processing. And for example, tons of us, we're in denial about certain things because we're afraid to start, kind of like searching down deep and digging up all that repressed crap and stuff like that. But once you do that, and it could feel icky, but when you kind of embrace that and are able to just at least take the first step of acknowledging that there is something you need to process and move through, things are going to clear up big time. So you're going to feel fulfillment. You're going to feel like you're living your purpose when you start paying attention, more attention to yourself and what you need. So just make sure you're doing that, and things will come as they're meant to. And there are great things coming. So don't worry. You're not going to not feel the feeling you want to feel in this lifetime. You're going to feel it, but you got to focus and you got to work for it. It's like the universe will meet you halfway, right? So keep that in mind. Keep making connections where you can. Okay, so the first important day. This is the War card. And a lot of times it can mean a war, like a war, or a war within yourself, or a war looming, or whatever it might be. It's the concept of war. The person involved is soulmate. And this is pride. Okay, so what this feels like is simply on this day, it feels like you meet your match, you meet your person, your partner, and it feels like it feels internal war, which, by the way, I do want to say there was this like a hint of a actual war, so this might actually be helping us help us figure out the time period, because it might be during a war period that's going on, which I think this might be like World War I-ish. Look that up. But it feels more like, overridingly, we're looking at the internal war inside. So it feels like you're meeting someone, there is connection, but you're highly aware you have issues. You're highly aware that things don't always turn out great for you. You're highly aware that life is not peaches and cream, right? So there's this whole thing of like, do I deserve love? By this point, this whole thing is happening, this flasher thing, this psychological issue is happening because you didn't get love, so you don't really know what love feels like, and certainly you don't know how to love yourself. So you're just like, basically, and it feels like you're maybe in your 30s, like I want to say 30s minimum, you're just running into what it feels like to have someone appreciate you, love you, for who you are, accept you. It's very interesting. However, the pride issue is coming in just because it's like, you're like, no, I've made it this far on my own. I don't need anyone. I didn't need my mother. I didn't need my father. I didn't need friends. I didn't need that kind of thing. So you're like, I don't need this either. That kind of thing. So it's about, here, it's like putting walls up. But this is your soulmate. So what do soulmates do? Man, they help us learn lessons. So that's what we're doing. This period is about learning to let love in. And it feels like it takes a long time because it's not like he or she is pursuing you. And honestly, I can't really tell at this second whether it's a he or she, but this person, it's not exactly like a hardcore pursuit. It feels like it's this like ping pong game back and forth, where there's just flirtation and there's moments, and it's kind of like a growing bond happening, and all the while you're really, it's really tough because like here, that you have to work on it. You know what you're doing. Basically, it feels like this aspect of you at this time, he's aware of what he's doing. He's aware he's making it harder on himself, and yet it's so hard for him not to do that to himself. So there's this aspect of self-punishment. So you might connect with that, where do you find that you punish yourself? Basically, are you hard on yourself? Bad self-talk. Where do you set your standards for yourself so high that you often don't reach them? And this is, intentionally, where you want to reach them, but you don't. And part of you might know that you won't. So you might self-punish, again, with bad talk to yourself, self-hate, or like kind of like just not giving yourself like the full zeal that life has to offer you. So keep that in mind and kind of check in and see if you're doing that to yourself, because this can also be something that people do subconsciously to themselves. So keep that in mind, and it would be a message for you that if you find yourself kind of self-sabotaging, you have to stop. And it's really time to start filling your love bucket with love for yourself. It's also time to put walls down. If you find that you're someone that puts walls up when you meet people, and you even feel the spark or feel the bond or feel that, just like you're able to read them and you know they're good people, it's just hard for you to maybe let your guard down right away. This would just be a message for you to try. Just try. Take a chance and let your guard down right away with someone. The next time you meet someone you feel good about, and just see what happens. And this is also, it feels like they're bringing in this thing we talked about earlier about expressing yourself, because that's part of putting your walls down, to allow yourself to express yourself about your feelings for someone and seeing what happens. And if that person for some reason doesn't act quite right or whatever, don't punish yourself for putting your walls down. Keep going with it, because these are opportunities to grow. Okay? So keep making connections where you can with this. Don't let your pride don't let your pride self-sabotage. That's basically what it feels like. You are deserving of love, and make sure that should be an affirmation. I feel like it's coming through is you look in the mirror and you tell yourself you are deserving of love, and mean it. If it's hard at first, that's normal. If it feels silly at first, it's normal. Keep it up. Do it. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections with this however you can. Also, I feel like if we're looking at anything romantic, you are looking for someone, if you don't have a partner already, you're looking for someone who is patient. That will be the right person for you. If you are in a relationship and it's not going great, it's likely that you're with someone that might not be patient enough for you, for what you need, for what your soul needs. If you're in a relationship and it's going great and going well and smooth, it's likely that person has the patience that you need. So keep that in mind. Keep making connections. We're going to go to the next important day here. So this is the marriage card. This is the child card for relationship, and the feeling is betrayed. Okay, so it feels like after quite some time, you do let this person in. Took a lot of time, a lot of teeth pulling, but it happens. So it feels like it's kind of happening too because you are lonely. And here, the aspect is lonely and really just kind of gives into that human desire to have a companion. So it feels like there is a union with this person. And this person, again, soulmate, we see these people time and time again. It's likely you're even, with them in this life. It doesn't have to be romantically. It can be family or a friend or whatever, but they're here to teach you lessons, right? So this person, the lesson you guys both agreed to teach each other is happening here as far as karma goes. So it feels like there's not going to be karma with this person per se, except for if you see him again in this life. And it feels like this person in your life, if they're in your life now, it would be a person who is, again, patient, but also might even be on the precipice of annoying as far as boundaries go. So if anyone comes to mind right now as you're hearing that, someone in your life who is overall a patient, good person, but might have issues with boundaries a little bit, as far as pushing boundaries, then we're talking about that person. If no one comes to mind, perfectly fine. Tuck it into the back of your head, because one day you might come across this person. Anyway, so we're going to the marriage child. Okay. So the union happens. Now, what's happening on this thing with the child is the child is not there yet. And what it feels like is you find out that this person is pregnant. So we are looking at a female. Now, it looks like the pregnancy is the betrayal because it's kind of dual. It feels like the union was made because you both decided you would not have children. So this feels like an accidental pregnancy that that basically it's like termination of it didn't happen. And I don't know if it's because it's like you guys are like, no, we don't want to do that, or she didn't want to do that, or it just wasn't available, you didn't know where to go for that kind of thing. But the pregnancy came to fruition, a child was involved. But this is the pregnancy period, and the betrayal comes in again because you agreed you didn't want children. Well, you didn't want children, she agreed to it, and the reason why is because of your own childhood. And now it's interesting because it's like normally people would want children in order to give them the childhood they never had, but your childhood was just so effed up here that it's like you didn't even want the chance of effing up a kid that you might have. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And then here we are, pregnant, and now you're like, oh my God, this kid's going to be so effed up, I'm not going to do a good job. So in your current life, you might be someone that has issues with self-worth, or you might judge yourself really bad. Like you really might not be giving yourself the credit you need. And if that's the case, it would be a message for you to start giving yourself credit for every single thing you do. Like honestly, if you get to a doctor's appointment on time, good job, Jenny. You know what I mean? Like you need to start patting yourself on the back. You need to start seeing just how wonderful you are. Like every time you do something positive, or every time you complete something, every time you get somewhere on time, you know what I mean? Every time you do just a simple human freaking task, say good job to yourself, because you need to start giving yourself a lot more good language, is what it feels like. So this also, there's something else here as far as, okay, so there's a union with the child and the betrayal. Hold on. This does have to do with self-loathing. Okay, so basically we're going to bring up a theme that you may or may not connect with as far as parenthood. Is this a theme in your life? Are you someone that does not want children? Which would be interesting because you've decided to be born at a time now when women can choose not to have children. Oh, awesome. So, without being looked at funny. So, if that's the case for you and you're like, I'm not a kid person and I don't want children or whatever, and you've decided to go that route, great. Don't doubt yourself. That's what you're supposed to do. Trust yourself. Trust your decisions. I am certainly not going to tell you that, oh, this child was born and it changed his life dramatically and he's super happy. Even if that was the case, the message isn't like, make sure you have children if you don't want them. It's your choice. On the other hand, if you have found yourself in this life with an interestingly similar predicament where you maybe have an accidental child, or maybe you do want children, then this is just like kind of like a message that it's going to be fine. You're not going to... There is no parent in the effing world who knows what the heck they are doing. Please excuse my language, by the way. I mean, I know I'm not cussing, but you get it. So no parent knows what they're doing. They're all just, day by day trying to make it work, trying not to F up their kids. So it's also another message that if you are a parent, you need to, again, be gentler with yourself and pat yourself on the back just for keeping your kids alive every day, because that in itself is a task, okay? Getting your kids to bed every night. Pat yourself on the back. That's a big job. So basically, it's just another way of telling you to be kinder to yourself and not to be hard on yourself, and to really try to step back and see yourself in a bigger picture and in a better light. We're all just trying to do our best here. You need to see that. That needs to be your mantra. I'm trying to do my best. I'm trying to do my best. And as long as you keep trying to do your best and do right by you and be good to yourself, everything's going to be okay. Make connections where you can with this. Furthermore, I feel like there's something about betrayal. If anything, it could be being betrayed by a loved one in this current life, it might be your ultimate trigger. If someone lies to you, if someone goes behind your back, if someone betrays you in some way, that may be the kicker, the trigger, the thing that can make you turn your back forever and say sayonara. You know what I mean? So if that's the case, that would be the connection. On the other hand, we did mention earlier about giving people second chances, which is interesting that that's coming back into this. So this might mean that if there is someone in your life that is popping up all of a sudden, maybe now, maybe in the future. Just remember this. Someone might be popping up with an apology or wanting a second chance. Use your intuition, trust your instincts, trust your judgment. You have the choice and freedom to say, yes, okay, second chance. And this could be a friendship, it doesn't have to be romantic. Or you can say, no, I don't think this is good for me, and you're not the right energy to have in my life at this time as I'm trying to move forward in my path. Okay? So just make sure you are paying attention to your intuition when it comes to this. And you'll know, you'll feel it. You know what I mean? Because if it's a no, then you need to see, like, if the person comes back in your life for a second chance, or if there's someone that wants a second chance and it feels like a no to you, you need to see it as an opportunity for you to express yourself in saying no. If it's a yes for you, you need to see it as an opportunity for you to let the walls down and give a second chance. Either way, you're learning a lesson. So pay attention to what your gut is telling you, okay? It won't lead you astray. Now, keep making connections where you can with that. Oh, and also you can also be making a connection with the marriage thing if you feel like marriage isn't your gig. That's fine. Again, this is fine. It's almost like, you know, he didn't want it, but it was like normal to do or typical or what was expected, so he did it. So maybe you're someone that doesn't do what's, I hate to say normal, we'll say traditional. Maybe you don't want the marriage route, maybe, you know, that kind of thing, and that's okay. Again, another chance for you to stand up for yourself and express yourself and what you want. Or maybe you are like totally into marriage this time around because he wasn't, you see? So make connections where you can. We're going to the death card. Here, this is the disease and illness card. It feels just very much, when I put this down, we're looking at alcoholic. So it feels like we're looking at organs shutting down, and we're just looking at, let's see. It's actually not late in life. It feels like we're hitting like 60-ish, in the 60s, years old kind of thing, where the organs are just failing and he doesn't make it. So the only connection that would be is if you are sensitive to alcohol or have food or drink beverages kind of sensitivities, allergies, gluten-free kind of thing. Or it can mean your digestion is not really good, or if you find that, you know, like if you have stomach issues, that kind of thing, or like kidney issues. Like if you find that you have any of those, or if you know about them, then that would be a connection. And if not, great, that's fine. This does not mean anything's wrong with you. It just means that if you happen to have some things that connect with this is where it would stem from. It's just residue from this life. So you can always get rid of that through meditation or hypnosis, hypnotherapy even, if it's not serving you in this life for some reason. So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can. Now, this can also mean that you chose to come into a family, either one, where there's alcoholism, or two, they can be completely like dry and they're not into alcohol, especially because it feels like, okay, now they're linking. Okay, so it's almost like linking you with your parents, like repeating the patterns of your parents, the unhealthy pattern, which means that in your current life, if you find that you are the one in your family that is breaking patterns that your family has set, so to speak, that would be a connection. And if not, that's fine, but that would be a connection if it is. So keep making connections where you can. We're going to the lesson. This is simplicity. The only thing I feel like is coming through here is what you went through here and how you coped with this could have been avoided, even though you learned lessons from it, whole lifetime of lessons, but it could have been avoided. It could have gone a different way. If you simply, honestly, forgave is what's coming up. If you allowed yourself to forgive not only the people that you knew hurt you, but also just forgave people as a whole, like people in general, because what happened in this childhood put a bad taste in his mouth for kind of all of humanity kind of deal. So that's why it took so long for him to find a companion to get to here kind of deal. But all that had to be done was for him to forgive, because in forgiveness, it's not about letting the other person off the hook, as you probably have heard. It is about releasing yourself of those burdens. But instead, he clung to the burden. And he just had it his whole life, and it ended up killing him, basically. So that's where the simplicity comes in, is usually when there's challenges in your life and things are going awry and you don't know the solution, it's usually very, very simple. And it can be as simple as just simply forgiving people. It doesn't mean you're forgetting, just forgive. You're releasing, you're letting go of a burden that you're holding in you, which means when you let go of that, what are you doing? You're creating space inside of you for more positive, uplifting vibes and things to fill yourself with, you know? So just keep that in mind. It's almost like a message where it's like the solution you're looking for is right there. And it's way more simple than you think. So don't overcomplicate, don't overanalyze, don't read it. Just listen to your intuition and don't let your pride block you. And just simply find it's a simple solution. So allow yourself to kind of just step back, see the bigger picture, and just see the solution's going to be right there. Okay? But keep making connections where you can with simplicity, all right? I think that's about it. But keep making connections. There's your past life. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections. And thanks for letting me read you.